This is a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
I'm Tony Bruschi. Thank you for joining us. It is another day of judgment for Alex Murdaugh as he's accepted a plea deal. We're going to take you now to the South Carolina courthouse where that sentencing is taking place, as well as victim impact statements. They'll be read or stated directly to Alex Murdaugh from those that had been wronged by him due to his financial crimes against them. Let's go there right now.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Mr. Bland?
May it please the court, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Before I get started, I'd like to thank you for all the time and attention that you put into these cases over the last 2 years. A lot of personal sacrifice, a lot of ups and downs, and just on behalf of the families that I represent and my partner Ronnie Richter represents, just want to thank you. I also want to thank Attorney General Alan Wilson and Assistant Attorney General Creighton Waters, who is just a tremendous ambassador of justice. They've had a dogged pursuit of Alex Murdaugh in these cases, both the financial and obviously the murder cases, and Creighton is just a tremendous public servant. This day, Your Honor, was coming for 2 years, and we're happy it's here today. I just want you to know that we are satisfied that this is a very, very strong sentence that has been agreed to by the parties. It sends a clarion bell signal to not only attorneys, but to anybody who wants to victimize the vulnerable. This was predatory behavior. This wasn't Enron, it wasn't WorldCom, it wasn't stealing money from faceless people, from shareholders. This was Alex Murdaugh stealing money from those that were closest to him. Gloria Satterfield, who broke bread with him and his family for 22 years, helped raise his kids. Jordan Jenks, that you'll hear from, lifelong friend since they were 8 years old, grew up, played ball together. This is close theft. This is the unicorn of all thefts. And you know, he's on the Mount Rushmore of all criminals. He hit for the cycle. You know, he's convicted of money laundering, convicting of conspiracy, convicting of fraud, and most importantly, hit the home run. He was convicted of double murder. This is somebody that has tarnished our legal profession and tarnished our state. And, you know, we spent the past 2 years focusing on Mr. Murdaugh, but today is when we focus on the victims and the impact that his actions have had on victims. I met you for the first time at the bond hearing in October of 2021. I had never had the honor of appearing before you. And during that hearing, I said to you that Mr. Murdaugh needs to drink from the same cup of justice that every other criminal defendant has to drink from in our state. And I think today he's getting that full cup. It's served hot. And I'm very proud of what our state has done. But now let's focus on the victims. My partner Ronnie and I have had the pleasure of representing Tony Satterfield and Brian Harriet, along with the siblings of Gloria Satterfield. We've represented Alicia and Hannah Plyler, two sisters that you've heard about that were victimized by Alex Murdaugh. Jordan Jenks. We represented Sandra Manning. Nobody ever heard of Sandra Manning. She was the sister of Gloria Satterfield. $28,000 was missing. She was also a victim. of Alex Murdaugh. We've represented Blake Hodge. Now, we've heard a lot of cases that talk about money theft, but there's a whole slew of other cases out there that deal with Mr. Murdaugh taking their cases. Blake Hodge was a paraplegic, and guess what he didn't do? He didn't file their cases on time, and case was lost on the statute of limitations. Those are victims too. We've represented Melvert Edwards, who's the father of Hakeem Pickney. We've talked a lot about Mrs. Pickney and Hakeem, but Hakeem had a father, Melvert Edwards, and there are some issues that concern that. So now I'm going to focus on Gloria Satterfield, because that was the trial that we would be doing yesterday. We were going to start this trial. And Gloria, I get very frustrated when I hear that she was just a housekeeper. She was so much more than that. I think Alex would agree she was so much more than that. She helped raise their kids, of Maggie and Alex's kids, Paul and Buster. She was a good woman. She was a good mother to Brian and Tony. And Alex exploited that woman, the woman who was in his house, the woman who helped raise his kids. He exhibited this type of predatory behavior where these people are not as educated as he was and is as a former lawyer. And he knew that they had something valuable. And he believed that their cases were his cases instead of the cases belonging to the client. So I'm going to introduce Brian Harriet. I'm going to introduce Tony Satterfield to the court and to everybody here. They're wonderful kids. They're glorious kids. Brian is a wonderful man, but he's a vulnerable adult. And Alex Murdaugh took advantage of this vulnerable adult. And it gnaws at me. And when I heard Mr. Wooders get up and go through the litany of crimes, I got nauseous. I'm sure I'm not the only one that got nauseous here. And so let's not delude ourselves. He's not just guilty of 22 crimes. He's guilty of all 102 of those crimes. And he will live knowing that he is guilty of those crimes. These boys, these men are wonderful Christian men, but their death of their mother was used to steal, to enrich himself at their expense. And I heard when he pled guilty, I wasn't in the courtroom a couple weeks ago, he used the words, "I wrongfully obtained." That's not wrongfully obtained. He stole. Use the right word. He was a thief. He used the word and said, "I misrepresented." No, you didn't misrepresent. You lied. That's what we have to talk about in this courtroom. He was a thief, and he stole, and he lied to these clients, those that are closest to him. He lied to his law partners. He lied to his own brother. $3.5 million of the $4.3 million that was recovered on behalf of the death of Gloria Satterfield, he stole. He took. And you heard Mr. Wooders, there's Mrs. Pickney coming in the courtroom. You heard Mr. Wooders say, he stole every dime, everything, every last penny from them. And, I heard it said that, Alex said 2 weeks ago, I'm really happy that I'm finally able to be pleading guilty, that I've been wanting to do this since September of 2021. No. You need to hear, Your Honor, what he has done since September of 2021 in order not to have accountability and in order not to accept responsibility for what he did. When we had the bond hearing, after the bond hearing, his lawyers said in a gaggle that the Satterfields should look to others to get their money. They shouldn't look to Alex, that there's other people that are responsible for that. That was the start. We sued him civilly. He didn't answer the complaint and accept liability and deny damages, which he could have done. He denied liability. From 12/21 through May of 22, we, my partner Ronnie Richter and I, negotiated a confession of judgment, the same confession of judgment that was introduced as, Exhibit 23 by Mr. Wooders, for $4.3 million. the money that he stole. He accepted responsibility. Did he? You'll hear in a second. He did not. But took 6 months to get a simple confession of judgment that should have been signed immediately. The murder trial, Mr. Harpootlian, who's a wonderful lawyer, probably one of the best our state has ever produced, denigrated this guy on cross-examination, Tony Satterfield. Disrespected him. That's not a man that's accepting responsibility. That's not Alex Murdaugh accepting responsibility. After the trial ended in March, Mr. Murdaugh tried to add these two men to the federal court Nautilus action as party defendants. And it was said that if Nautilus wants any money, don't get it from Mr. Murdaugh. You got to get it from these guys. Because Mr. Richter and we recovered money, more than $7.5 million for them, but from other sources. If that wasn't enough, and Judge Gergel denied that motion, that wasn't enough to stop them. In the summer, they filed a motion to vacate the confession of judgment that he gave to them in May of 2022. He signed his name. He had 2 really good lawyers help him negotiate the terms. It was notarized under penalty of perjury. But then he went and filed a motion in our state court trying to vacate that confession of judgment. Judge Price denied it in August. Wrote an order that said, not happening. You gave it freely, voluntarily, without coercion or duress. You're a smart man. You knew what you were doing. Did it end there? No. They appealed it. They appealed that. Did it end there? No. We were supposed to have a trial, but for his plea 2 weeks ago. What happened next? They attacked the jury pool in Beaufort County. Incapable of being objective and fair because of all the publicity, the pretrial publicity. They didn't end it there. They attacked you. They filed a motion to recuse you from hearing the Satterfield case, saying that you, who was giving your time, your sweat, and your blood, that you were conflicted, that you made any appropriate statements out of court. So the answer is no. He didn't want to do that in September of 2021, like he said 2 weeks ago, or was said in the courtroom. They did everything they could not to do it. But the calendar forced the plea. The 102 charges forced the plea. And there was all this about pretrial publicity, that somehow I caused pretrial publicity and others and people who wrote about it and podcasters or whatever. Boy, is that rich. The defense attorney himself's a podcaster. He started a podcast after the murder trial. They went to CrimeCon and they talked for 2 days about the case. They've done press conferences. They've done documentaries. They've gone on TV. If there's any pretrial publicity, it's caused in part by them. And they still came before you to say that Mr. Murdaugh couldn't get a fair trial. These victims' lives have been permanently altered. Let's focus on them. These are people that lost their mother, that lost their sister. The Plyler sisters lost their mother and brother. Arthur Badger lost his wife and was left to raise 5 kids. And you heard $1.3 million. He didn't get that money for 10 years. Do you know what it would have meant to that man to raise 5 kids with an additional $1.3 million? Thomas Moore, that Mr. Wooders talked about, a state trooper. He stole $125,000 from a state trooper. The man needed the money to retire. He couldn't retire because he had to pay back medical bills because he didn't have the $125,000.
Please, George, Your Honor, I hate to interrupt this, especially since I'm one of the best lawyers that the state has ever produced. But he's talking about other people's clients now. I'd ask the court restrict him to his clients. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bland?
These clients couldn't assess risk. These two men couldn't assess risk. They couldn't navigate their way through the system. Even though Jordan Jenks is a council member in Hampton County, he couldn't navigate his way through the system. He was best friends with Alex since 8 years old. Alex would have been the last person that Jordan would have thought would reach into his pocket and steal from him. He preyed on them like a wolf does a rabbit, Your Honor. Being a lawyer is everything to my partner and me. 35 years we've spent helping people. Every one of these lawyers here, Jim May, Justin Bamberg, Mark Tinsley, we do it because we love to help our clients. It's a sacred trust. None of us ever look at our client's case as a piggy bank. He did it for 16 years. Now, I even disagree with the state. The state tags the number at $8.5 million. No. The federal government tags it at $10.5 million he stole. It isn't a white-collar crime. It's a red-collar crime. It's a red-collar crime because it includes lack of remorse. Just a systematic pattern of taking from clients, taking from the Satterfields, taking from the Jenks, taking from the Plylers, taking from the Mannings. It never stopped. The only reason it stopped was because of the boating accident, or it would have continued. Every client was transactional. And he has done more damage to our profession. All the lawyer jokes that we lie, we steal, we double deal, we go back in chambers with you, and we cut deals behind our clients' back. He sent us back generations. Our state was a laughingstock until you got a hold of that murder case. So now the Satterfields have a judgment. It's in stone. They withdrew their appeal. My clients want their money, Mr. Murdaugh. When do you plan on paying it? They want that $4.3 million. I will never forget the words you used at the end of the murder sentence about how he will get visitors at night. It pierced me. And I'm here to tell you that Gloria Satterfield will visit him. That Alania Plyler and Hannah Plyler's mother and brother will visit him. All of these people will visit him and let him know that it wasn't okay that he that he used their trust and misused their trust, that he stole money from them. He will see them and they will visit him, and I hope they do. Because not only did he hurt these people, he hurt his whole family. There's good in his family. Not everybody's bad in his family. He hurt his son. He tarnished his son. His father's a thief, a liar, a conspirator, and a money launderer. So, in closing, I would like to thank you, Your Honor, for all the time you've given. I'd like to thank, again, the state. I want you to know that I am proud of the sentence. Yes, I wish it was more. We all wish it was more. But 27 years, doing 85% of his time, so that these fine people don't have to get up on the stand and be victimized over and over again, subjected to humiliating cross-examination. I think the finality of that is good, because I'm confident in a lot of the dominoes falling where they should. Don't forget, Judge Gergel still has a sentence coming, and it could be a consecutive sentence, so that if he lives long enough, to get out of state court for forgetting about the double murder charge. But if he lives long enough and he walks out of state court and it's a consecutive sentence, he's going to walk to a federal prison. And I feel good that he will never breathe a fresh breath of air ever again. So on behalf of my clients, Your Honor, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think my partner wants to say just a very brief word. I appreciate your time.
Sir, thank you.
May it please the court, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ronnie Richter. I've been a lawyer in good standing of the bar of this state for 30 years now, Your Honor. I'm also a lifetime South Carolinian. What I want you to know about the clients that we represent is that they are the very best of us, that they are humble, that they're God-fearing, that they're honest, that they're hardworking. I've had a great career, but this has been the highlight of my career, to try to restore some faith that was destroyed by that man in the clients that we serve. I want you to know this too about the clients that we serve. None of them are victims. And I've heard the word said over and over. I'm even going to disagree with my partner. We don't have a victim in this courtroom. The word connotes that some accident has happened, that some misfortune has befallen them, that they are not victims. Prey, Your Honor. Prey is hunted. Prey is hunted by predators. Prey is taken when it's at its most vulnerable. But by any way of looking at what happened here, the people we represent are not victims. They are prey. And that man across the courtroom, by any measure, is a predator. And when I say to you that these folks represent the best of us, and I look across the aisle and I see Alec there, who was once a contemporary of ours, all I can think to myself is, for all the power, the privilege, the entitlement that he was born into, that, I mean, for God's sake, all that was ever asked of the man is that you wake up and be Alex Murdaugh every day. To have taken it so afoul is hard to reconcile. He's made his behavior complicated, but we figured out what he's done. He's tried to hide his true nature from us, but we figured out who he is. So the only question we're left with is why. And I'll suggest to the court this answer. It doesn't matter, because the only person who can answer that question is Alex Murdaugh, and he's demonstrated himself to be quite the cunning liar. Your Honor, in the opening, I heard Mr. Arputlian say something about T-shirts and bobbleheads, and that is unquestionably a shot at my partner, Eric Bland, and I do want to address that to the court. I want you to know, Your Honor, that my partner has gained some very well-deserved notoriety for his courageous representation of our clients, and that, yes, he has sold T-shirts and other merchandise, and that all of those proceeds have gone to charities, including the Wounded Warrior Project and others. No one came here today to sell a T-shirt. We came here today to finish a job. We came here today for justice. And we trust you, Your Honor, and we trust this court. We thank Creighton Walters and his excellent team for the work they've done in this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Tony Satterfield would just like to say a brief word.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Morning, Your
Sutton.
Honor. I do have one request. Do you mind if I face that way?
That'd be fine.
Because when I talk to people, I like facing who I'm talking to. Thank you. I really don't have words. You lied. You cheated. You stole. You betrayed me and my family and everybody else. And you did it at a cost of my mom's death, first of all. A couple Octobers ago, you wrote a half-hearted I'm sorry letter, which was half-hearted because your actions did not follow through that you were really sorry. So I'm going to read you. I have an apology. I'm sorry that you feel like you had to betray us, steal from us, cheat us, and lie to us. I'm sorry that your family has to now go through what they're going to have to go through the rest of their life because of your actions, of what you did. I want you to know that I forgive you. I will pray for you every day, that God get the hold of your heart. And you may not know the gospel, so I'm going to share it with you. The gospel is the death, the burial, and resurrection of Jesus. That's how people are able to forgive people and able to do right and able to pray for those who hurt them and do things to them. So my heart is with you. My prayers are with you, and I just wish the best for you.
Thank you. This is Gloria's sister, Ginger Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Your Honor. If you allow me to speak, and again, I'd like to address it to Alec, if that's okay.
Okay. A little louder, please.
I would like to speak and address it to Alec if you don't.
That mic adjustable.
Can you speak? Do you hear me?
I don't know. Speak on it, please.
Can you hear me now? You hear me
Yes.
now? Now you hear me? Okay. Alec, Gloria worked very hard for you for 20 years, you and your family. She loved Buster and Paul as her own. She loved Maggie, and she trusted and loved you wholeheartedly. She considered you and your family as her own family. To have her loyalty and love and trust betrayed by you is very hard for our family to understand. We just will never understand. And how you are able to profit from her death is especially hard for us to understand and cause unimaginable hurt to our family. The fact that if only you had given Tony and Brian just a very small portion of the money you stole from them, they would have appreciated it and been very happy while thinking that you had kept your word, done your legal duty, and looked out for them and their best interest. Instead, you chose to break the law that you had sworn to uphold, be greedy, and look out for your own best interest. Alec, in time, the wrong you did to so many people may be forgotten, but in hopes that Gloria and her pure heart, full of kindness and love, will not be forgotten, we started the Gloria's Gift Foundation in honor of Gloria and her memory by providing gifts to some needy children during Christmas so that Gloria will be remembered forever. And my heart goes out not only to my family, but today to hear all these families that you did wrong by. Those children that you stole from, everything. They lost a mother, and you stole every dime from them. I just don't understand. Did you not have a soul? I don't get it, Alec. I can't understand it. And I thank God maybe that I don't understand it, because then I might be in the same situation as you. I just don't get it, and I guess I never will get it. So hopefully God will forgive you, because you're going to need forgiveness. I just don't know. I'm lost for words, Alec. You are not the person that I thought I knew. And you come from a good family, but you wasted your life. And I hate you did your family the way you did, because you do come from a good family. And I'm sorry you threw your life away. Thank you, Judge, for allowing me to address.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And thank you for the state for everything y'all did for us. Find justice.
That's on behalf of the Satterfield.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I believe the next person to address the court will be Justin Vanward, who represents a number of the victims here, including Miss P, Sergeant Thomas, Angel Gary, Jamie and Richard, Johnny Bush, Christopher Anderson, and Randy Drawdy. Mr. Vanward.
May it please the court.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Beside me is Miss Pamela Pinckney, and she would like to say just a couple of words. I'm reminded of a quote, and I think it's very fitting for today. It's that fairy tales don't tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales show children that dragons can be slayed. This process, from the beginning of the investigation through the state grand jury process. As Attorney Waters said earlier, a lot of people were afraid to participate, and it took courage. That grand jury process, this entire criminal justice process, not even thinking about the civil stuff, the criminal justice process, this has been the fairy tale. The children are the victims. It's the victims' family members. It's their closest friends. It's the people in our communities, whether you're talking about Colleton County, where some of the charges were pending, or Beaufort, or Hampton, or Allendale, or Bamberg, or Orangeburg, those communities, the children. Today is such an important day because these victims, their loved ones, the community members, everyone knew that dragons existed. They've seen it. They watch TV, they read the newspaper. Everybody knew that dragons existed. Today, this sentence, Your Honor, will show all of them that dragons can be slayed. And that is important in our society. With regards to the sentence, and it's tough to reach a decision in talking with the clients and explaining them what the options are. We support the sentence. It is a lot of time in the quote-unquote legal white-collar arena, but there's another aspect to this, and I understand, I get it. I think my clients, the victims, understand that this entire ordeal for a lot of people, not just in our communities in South Carolina, across the planet, this entire ordeal has been very entertaining to them. And I don't say that in a negative light. They're not involved. It wasn't their mother who died. They didn't have to bury their son, right? There's a reason Law and Order is one of the #1 most watched shows that's ever been on television. It is entertaining to them. But for a lot of people, this has been one of the worst nightmares, the worst fairy tale that anybody could ever actually have to live. And it needs to come to an end. Again, one of the most amazing things that I've seen from my clients is the degree of grace. What's the saying? Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And a lot of them live by that. There are people who would have every reason and right to hate this man for betraying them, for what he did to their families. It's not just about money. These are not just names on a piece of paper or commas and decimal points. This was money that they needed for their lives. I believe there were victims who ended up getting put out on the street when their money got taken. If they had a reason to hate him or hate anybody, they would be justified. But the degree of grace and mercy that they have displayed by forgiving him, because that is their religious belief, and they stand on that. They don't just say that. They don't just do what Alec did and say, I have your back, or say this and do something else. They stand on that. And although they have every reason to be selfish as it pertains to the pursuit of accountability, the pursuit of justice against an individual who truly does not deserve grace from the criminal justice system, does not deserve any benefits from the criminal justice system, they're still willing to think about other people. And Your Honor, you know I come from Bamberg County. We're one of the smallest, poorest counties in this state, filled with good, hard-working people, much like all of the people that Alec victimized. Folks in Hampton County, folks in Allendale County, where literally you try to wake up, do the best you can do, keep a roof over your head, food in your fridge, and a couple of presents under the tree at Christmas time. These victims are also thinking about those communities, their neighbors. The reality is that if Alec were to have individual trials on all of these charges, these victims' neighbors and friends and community members would also begin to suffer, because those local governments, poor little Bamberg County, Allendale County, Hampton County, they're the ones who have to pay for it. The victims recognize that. I, as an attorney, recognize that. And based on the plea and the time that Alec is going to be sentenced, we understand. And there is a degree of value in finality. There is a degree of value for not just these victims, but these communities and the criminal justice system, to be able to actually see the dragon be slayed in this courtroom and sentenced to prison for what will effectively be the rest of his natural life. It's no secret how tough SCDC is. People generally age a lot faster in there, and that's not something I celebrate. I don't say this excited and happy to be here. As a lawyer, I hate looking at Alec and seeing a former attorney sit there. I hate it. I hate to see somebody from our neck of the woods sit there. I don't celebrate that. This process has sucked. If it wasn't for the commitment to shining light on things and standing up for folks like Ms. Pinckney and others who needed it, I personally don't know how I would have made it through the process, because it's not enjoyable. And I don't think any decent person celebrates the downfall of another living, breathing human being, particularly somebody that they knew. But it's necessary. This has been a horrible, tragic, sorrow-filled fairy tale. And I think everybody is ready for it to come to an end, Your Honor. We'd like to thank Creighton Waters and the AG's office. They've done a wonderful job. And Your Honor, if it wasn't for the encouragement that Creighton and his team poured into people to let them know that the state had a true interest in accountability, I think that there would be far less charges, because people wouldn't have wanted to testify at the grand jury or have their name public or their face public. And there's a lot to be said for that. Today will make our system better. It will bring closure, and ideally it will deter others. There's a whole nother discussion that can be had with regards to the fact that 27 years in prison is a very, very large, as you heard, if not the largest amount of time someone labeled a white-collar criminal could get in prison. But that's more so of an American criminal justice system discussion compared to some of the other offenses. But here today, I think that is a win. My clients support finality here, and I'd just like to thank you for all your time and attention that you have given this particular case. And at this point, I think Ms. Pinckney has something that she would like to say. Ms. Pinckney.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
To Mr. Murdaugh, because I am an ordained evangelist and I have Christ in my life, the 23rd Psalm says, Thou preparest a table before me. No, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art is with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And because of what you did to me, I thank God for giving me strength to get through what I went through. Because without God, I wouldn't be here. And to you, Alex Murdaugh, I never thought that you would betray me and did me and my family the way we did, the way we was done at a vulnerable time in our life, at our lowest estate. We was in a terrible motor vehicle accident, and you just took us for granted. But all I want to say to you is I forgive you from my heart. On this day and forevermore, my prayers and endeavors shall be with you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Ms. P. and Mr. Bamler. Our next person to address the court will be Mr. Mark Tinsley.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Tinsley.
The longer I do this, the more I realize I don't know. I don't practice in this courtroom in terms of criminal defense cases. I don't understand why the label of a white-collar crime is given to these crimes, to the predatory acts that befell all of these people. The money that they were owed was owed because of blood, sweat, and tears. Hakeem Pinckney needed his money. The Badgers, who I represent, 6 children, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 11, are left with a single father, and he stole everything. And so I stand up here to say that I believe in accountability. I don't know that justice is served here, and I don't know that the punishment in this case is justified, and I don't want to be the odd man out. So I'll just keep it to myself and think it. Alec, you're a broken person. I don't think you're going to lie in bed at night and have people come to you. I don't think that those people matter. And I don't know when that happened, but clearly it happened where you matter more. And I feel bad for you as a result of that. I knew Paul and Maggie. I knew you. A lot of people thought they knew you. Clearly we didn't. I don't think you've always been this way, but somewhere along the way, you became broken. And you've justified it, and he's justified it every step of the way. And I stand up here, Your Honor, to simply correct the record. They didn't steal $1.325 million from my clients. The bank didn't help. The bank was complicit in every step of the way in enabling Alex Murdaugh to steal and pull this off. You asked about Eddie Smith. Eddie Smith was a check cashing scheme. Eddie Smith was being paid to cash checks, but that money is still out there, and he knows where it is. He didn't spend all that money on drugs. If he wants to be accountable, he wants to be contrite, he ought to tell these people where their money is. That's not going to happen. The same as he's not going to lay in bed at night and think about the wrongs and feel sorry for what he did. I don't envy you in having your job and the decisions you make. I recognize that there's value in finality. And maybe this is the right decision. I respect Your Honor. I respect this system. I stand up here merely to correct the record that my people have not been made whole. We are going to continue to seek accountability from the people that enabled him, that helped him, that were complicit in the thefts of their money. And so that's the reason I'm here today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tinsley. Our final person to address the court is Mr. Jordan Jakes.
Evening, Your Honor.
Hello.
First of all, I want to say I duly respect your job in this entire case. I admire what you did.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alex. I've been waiting on this day. I've been waiting on this day to look in your eyes. I wanted to sit down with you one-on-one when I found out what you did. I just want to know why. I can sit here all... Excuse me. Unlike a lot of these people here, these victims, I got a lot of intimate stuff that I could say. You remember all those wildlife hunts I had for law enforcement? Your entire family was the guest of honor. Mr. Buster, Judge Eldroff, insisted on me taking care of them for the day. You don't know how many brownie points you got in my life from just that. I trusted you with everything. I knew I was going to break. I knew it.
Mr. Bland, can you reposition his mic so I can understand?
I knew I was going to break. Excuse me, I knew I was going to break. But I got some notes here. I don't even know if I can go through. Our family got a deep relationship, man. You remember making a comment to me after I found out, after we discussed the possible amount this lawsuit was worth, and you made a comment to me, and you said, don't spend all this money foolishly. Tell me what you did with $20 million that you stole. Part of it being mine. And you know, I'm sitting there crying. I want everybody to, Judge, I need you to know. I'm not crying because of what he stole from me. I'm crying for what he did to everybody in the suit. These kids, these people dying. I didn't want to come up here and bash you, but I gotta ask you, what kind of animal are you? I can't even go over my notes. I'm not here to be your judge. Ultimately, that belongs to the good Lord and Savior. But may He have mercy on your soul. I didn't want to see you. When I saw you on TV in an orange jumpsuit, it hurt me. Still wasn't mad at you. But this judicial system put together a system to deal with people that make bad choices. And my friend, you chose to make the choice you made. So I need the judge to know that I am full favor. I am in full favor of the court's recommendation for the 27 years. I can go back to us going to mediation. That you affected my wife. You chose to have Maggie deal with us those 2 days we were in Charleston in mediation. She catered to us hand and foot. You told me where to go and check into my room. We did. From that point, we never drove another foot. Neither did you. Maggie drove us everywhere we went. When all this came about, Paul, and Maggie, I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it. But after sitting here today and hearing some of the devious things that you did to people, these victims here, changed my mind, bro. Once again, I ask you, what kind of animal are you? Boy, I gave you my all. I would do the money you stole from me. You could have asked me for it, and I would have gave it to you if that's how I felt about you and your family. You didn't have to steal it from me, man. And I still, if there's any way possible, you set it up for me to be on your visitation list. I want to sit down with you. I want to look you in your eyes and talk to you when I can really talk to you. We got some intimate things we can talk about.
I would like that.
But why, bro? Why? Such a talent. Do you know what you just threw away? How talented you are? I don't understand. Mr. Harpoonian, nothing to do with you, but you made a comment earlier about attorneys trying to sell bobbleheads and cups. Can you represent this man to sell those bobbleheads and cups to repay the victims that he stole from? Thank you.
This has been a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.